Northern Yards and Gardens, and I'm just doing a little bit of watering for my houseplants, and I noticed that my philodendron really wasn't looking so good. So I took it down off the shelf where it's kind of above my line of sight, and I started looking, and what I noticed is that a lot of the roots had actually rotted right off the plant, or maybe they had actually dried out. I'm not too good about watering my plants on a regular basis. And so a lot of the roots are missing, and I have this beautiful plant that has no roots to support it. So I'm just going to show you today what I'm up to in order to save my plant. So here's my philodendron, and as you can see there's actually a ton of nice bright green growth on it, but I had a few long trails of it that had like broken off and dried out recently, so I started wondering what was going on, and as I pulled it down off the shelf so I could see better, that's when I noticed that actually a large portion of it, like right here, this entire stem, doesn't have any roots left on it. And then these couple other stems are just barely hanging on by a thread. In fact, I'm basically pulling it right out of the pot right now. That's all that's left of the root system on this huge plant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull everything out of here, untangle my three different main branches that I have here. You can see there's kind of three main ones. If I can get those untangled, then I'm going to repot them, and I'm going to show you how to do that to support a new set of roots. So I managed to untangle all the strands of my philodendron, and here I actually had to lay it out on the kitchen floor just because the strands were each so long, each one of the vines, that by the time I got them entangled, I just had to lay them out on the floor to keep them from retangling. And I ended up with 4 separate vines of philodendron by the time I was done getting everything untangled. And so now, if you look closely here, you'll see that there's very little roots. With all that greenery, there's not much left to support the plant. In fact, there comes the last of that set of roots out of the pot. That's all that was supporting that part of the plant. This one is still fairly well rooted. Just kidding, there it came. This one does have a little bit of roots. I'm actually going to be able to save that pretty easily. And then on these last 2 strands, there's just nothing at all. This one just ends right here. You can see it's just a blunt end on that one. And this one is left with just the tiniest bit, and actually all that is hard and brittle and dead. So there's nothing there that's going to be able to produce a root. But that's fine, I'll be able to save these. So the first thing I did is I took my pot of soil, and I just have this fun little tool right here. My mom actually just gave it to me as kind of a gee whiz little gift that she found at an antique store, but I found this actually very handy. It has this nice little flat shovel right here and kind of a rake on the other end. And while I usually just use it as kind of a fun display, it actually comes in handy when I'm doing my houseplants, just because it's the right size. And so I just came in here and I loosened up all the soil in this pot because it had kind of crusted over. This soil has probably been in this pot for several years at this point. I've had this plant for a long time. So the soil had just kind of gotten dry and crusty, and so I just mixed it up to start with. And the first thing I noticed is very dry in here. So that is what happened is this plant got so dry that the roots just dried out and died. So I mixed it all up, and then I also am noticing that over time the soil is really settled, and so there's kind of a large gap here. So I'm going to add some soil to this. And I'm just going to use the original Miracle-Gro potting mix here. You notice this is not actually soil or dirt, it's potting mix. A lot of it is actually non-dirt elements in here that improves the porousness of the potting mix, and then that means that the soil can drain and it doesn't get bogged down. So this is what I'm going to add to the pot today, and it's probably what was already in there, although it's been long enough since I originally potted it, I can't remember. But I always try to keep a couple bags of this on hand. So I had to refill my watering can 5 times. So that's a total of 2.5 gallons of water that I poured into this pot, and it has been draining out the bottom, but you can see now finally it's visibly wet on top. I'm just going to grab my little tool here, and I'm going to stir this up to make sure that there aren't any large pockets of dry soil. You can see there are a little bit of areas here that are dry as I turn it over. There's a nice wet area. So I'm just going to get this all nicely stirred up, and then maybe add another gallon or so of soapy water to this pot to just once again make sure that I have all these pockets of dry filled in so we can give my plant the best possible start. So after adding probably another gallon of water, I finally have my potting mix to the point where it is thoroughly saturated and I'm satisfied that I can start planting in this. So I grabbed my first vine of leaves here, and this is one of the vines that does actually have some roots on it, but I just don't feel like there's enough roots there to really support the length of this vine. So this is where it gets really cool. Plants have the genetic DNA in every single cell to become any part of the plant. And so what I'm going to do is just encourage another part of the plant to become roots. So if you look really closely here at this node, you'll notice that it actually has some tiny, tiny little roots already started. And that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bury this part of the plant under the soil level, and those little nodes right there are going to become the new roots of the plant. And I'm probably going to try to get maybe like this node right here buried under the soil too. Try to focus in right there at that point. You can see here that there's some small nodes, and even right here too there's some other ones that are starting to grow. So these are all the points that I'm going to get buried below the soil line, and they're going to become the new roots for this plant. So I'm just going to grab my handy little digger here, move some of the soil to the side, make a little nice pocket here to work with, and definitely want to get the soil wide enough that I can get these roots in here. And then like I said, I'm going to try to get some of these nodes, and I don't really have any new leaves coming until quite a few nodes up the plant. Get that well buried all the way up. I do have actually a new little bud starting to open right there, so we'll see if we can leave that above the soil line and bury the next node down. So I'm just going to tuck it in here. There's another node I'll turn into a root. I'm going to press down just a little bit since there is some weight to this vine of leaves. I don't want it pulling itself right out of the pot. And now I'm just going to grab my next vines and do the same thing. Now this is one of the lengths of the vine that doesn't have any roots on it at all. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this leaf here, and I'm just going to pull that off to expose that node. And I think I'm going to do the same with the next one up also. So now I have 3 nodes on this stem of the plant. See right here's a node here, and then this one that I just exposed, and this one that I just exposed. I'm going to put all 3 of those below the soil line. And here's my last vine of plants. This is actually a very thick, lush vine, so I'm going to try to get as many nodes below the soil line as I possibly can, just because this one's going to need a lot of support from its roots. And I'm just kind of tamping down the soil gently, making sure that I'm getting air pockets out and that everything's kind of firmly secured in here so that the weight of the vines don't pull right out of the pot. Alright, and it's a good thing I added a little bit more soil, because you can see there's still actually quite a depth right here that doesn't have soil, but that's going to be fine. So I have it all nicely pressed down here. And the soil is still well saturated. It's actually like just a little bit squishy. You can see the water kind of rises up as I press down. So I'm not going to add any more moisture to the soil at this point, but I am going to have to keep a close eye on that over the next couple of weeks. And this next step is going to be the most important, and that is protecting the moisture in the soil, because with the roots missing, these plants are going to dry out very quickly, and so that's what we're going to protect. So at this point, I basically need to build a little greenhouse for my plant. That's going to keep the moisture in and encourage new growth of those roots. And so there's different products out on the market, but what I've actually found to be one of the best things to use is the cover of a Dairy Queen cake. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to try to gather up as much of the plant onto the top of the pot right now. And everything that ends up under this little cover is just going to have an easier time retaining moisture. There's a lot of plant here. Alright, let's see how I did. And then I'm just going to take my Dairy Queen cake cover and nestle it over the top here, tuck some of these last strands in. Ideally, I'm going to try to get this to kind of sit down on the lip of the... So in the end, I just wasn't satisfied with the way that any of my Dairy Queen cake covers fit over this much plant material. So I'm going on to plan B. So what I have here is a bag that you would find when you buy, I think this was a comforter. So if you can just imagine like all that bedding that was in there, usually these come like wrapped around sheets and comforters and pillows. So it's just like a thick, clear plastic bag. And so I'm going to put my plant in there and create a greenhouse out of that. First, I'm going to put my watering tray in there. So this is just to catch the drips so I don't have this big pool of water in the bottom of my bag. And we'll just lift the plant in here. Set it in the middle of that watering tray. That's situated. I pull the sides of the bag up. Oh, that fits really nicely. Just get these tucked in around here and zip my bag shut. So now I have created this little miniature greenhouse for my plant to live in. I'm probably going to keep it in here for close to a month so that the roots can really get grown, get rooted in nicely, and then it'll help to retain the moisture so that nothing's going to dry out very quickly. And maybe at the end of the month or so, I will be able to pull it out of there and let it grow on its own. In the meantime, though, I will have to probably add some water back in every couple of weeks, and this is something I said I didn't water enough in the first place, and that's why I had this problem, so I'm going to try to keep a closer eye on it. So I had a couple vines where they broke off as I was working with them. So all I did was I stripped the lower couple of leaves off of each of these to expose those buds, and if you remember, like I mentioned earlier, each one of those buds has the DNA to become any part of the plant. So I am just going to force it to become roots, and you can see the little tiny nodules there that are already kind of started forming roots. And once I strip those leaves off, I'm just came out here to my living room window where I have these vases hanging, and what they are is they're just water hanging in the vase here in the window. And I just, whenever I have this sort of thing happen where branches of my houseplants break off, I just tuck them into here. And so I have a couple different ones. And so I'm just going to add these right to this part of the vase here. I'm going to try to tuck them down in to the point that those exposed nodes are under the water line, and it looks like I'm going to have to add a little bit of water back to the vase also. So getting each one of those tucked down in there nice and deep. And they'll just be able to stay in here for the next couple of weeks, and eventually they'll grow their roots in here. And then at that point I'll be able to take them out and pot them into soil, and I'll have a whole new plant at that point.